Okay.
Okay, well, we're going to get started. It's 10. Good morning, everyone. This is Lisa Grennan, Family Program Manager, and welcome to Stress Less with Mindfulness. We're so excited to have Michigan State University and Georgina and Kai with us again today. So this session is Be Kind to Your Mind, and so excited for this one. And then next Friday will be our final one with Laughter is a Good Medicine. So two really great ones coming up, and we've really loved what you guys done so far. So welcome and take it away.
Thank you so much. Well, as was shared, my name is Kai Gritter, and I will be co-facilitating with my colleague Georgina today. Thank you all for joining us today. So before any of our sessions, we always read our non-discrimination statement, and I will read this for you now. MSU is an affirmative action, equal opportunity employer. Michigan State University extension programs and materials are open to all without regard to race, color, national origin, sex, gender identity, religion, age, height, weight, disability, political beliefs, sexual orientation, marital status, family status, or veteran status. Our programs and resources are available and open to all. Okay, so to begin, let's get us all on the same page. I will share the working definition of mindfulness, and this is as defined by Dr. Jon Kabat-Zinn, who we refer to as a mindfulness guru. It consists of 4 qualities. It's pretty simple, but it's powerful. So what is mindfulness? Mindfulness is paying attention on purpose, being in the present moment, the here and now, and having a non-judgmental attitude. And some might ask, what do you pay attention to? Each week we reiterate that it does not actually matter. There are many ways to strengthen our connection to present moment awareness, and it really is about each moment and the power of simply bringing an open and receptive attitude of acceptance to each and every one of our experiences. So this lesson will focus on using mindfulness to help you learn how to pay mindful attention to your thoughts. Okay, so usually we have a video that plays and that shows this beautiful butterfly flitting around. It's a great way to relax the body, calm and focus the mind, and become more aware. Unfortunately, we cannot play the video, but I will read a script for you. And we're going to try something a little different today. What we're going to do is I'd like you to experiment with me. I'd like to invite you to take your pulse for about 15 seconds. I'll get my timer on, and what we'll do is just if you can get your pulse either on your wrist or your neck, and just count the number of beats in that 15-second period. And then once my timer goes off, I'd like you to write the number of beats in that 15-second period. And then we'll repeat this at the end just to see if there's a difference in your heartbeat over the course of the mindfulness activity. So let me get my timer going. And when I say start, I invite you to take your pulse. Okay, if you could start and just take count of how many beats you have in this 15-second period. Okay, that was 15 seconds. I hope you took your pulse. Now please write down how many beats you counted in that 15-second period. And now I will lead you through a 3-minute breathing space practice. So please feel free to relax, soften your shoulders, and have your feet placed firmly or flat on the ground, and just be in a relaxed, dignified pose as I read this to you. Taking just 3 minutes out of your busy life can often help you to disengage from the autopilot of your mind. When you're on autopilot, you may not be aware of being in the present moment. We invite you to take this time to experience a taste of mindful presence. Take a posture that is relaxed and dignified with your back and neck in alignment, letting go of any tension that you feel in your muscles, and just letting your body express a sense of being present in the moment. first step is being aware of what is going on with you right now, becoming aware of what's going through your mind, what thoughts, feelings, or perceptions are present now. Here again, as best you can, just noting the thoughts as mental events. Noting them, then just noticing the feelings that are around this moment, particularly turning toward any sense of discomfort or unpleasant feelings. Rather than trying to push them away or shut them out, just acknowledge them. And perhaps thinking, there you are. That's how it is right now. Now, similarly with sensations in your body, either sensations of tension, holding, or whatever may be happening in your body, just hold an awareness of them. Simply noting them and saying to yourself, okay, that's how it is right now. Once you have a sense of what's going on now, you will have stepped out of that autopilot. And now collect your awareness by focusing on the movements of your breath. Focusing attention on the movements of your belly with the breath, the rise and the fall of your abdomen. Focusing attention on the movements of your belly as it rises in on the in-breath and as it gently falls on the out-breath. Just moment by moment, breath by breath, as best you can. So you know when the breath is moving in and when it's moving out. Gathering yourself, using the anchor of your breath to be present in the moment. Now allow your awareness to expand, being aware of the breath and an awareness of your body as a whole, including any tightness or sensations relating to any holding of your neck or your back or your face. Following the breath as if your whole body is breathing, holding it all in this slightly softer, gentler, more spacious awareness. And then when you're ready, just allowing your eyes to open and take this sense of spaciousness with you as you move throughout your day or evening. Okay, so that was the mindfulness practice for today. I'd now like to invite you once again to take your pulse, and I will get my timer started. Please just count how many beats you can count, and I'll start it now. Okay, that marks the end of the 15-second period. Would anyone care to share in the chat, or if you'd like to unmute yourself and share, was there any difference in the counts before versus after? Feel free to use the chat. Okay, I can see someone is typing. I'll just give you a moment. Okay, so Georgina shared that hers went down from 20 beats for that 15-second period to 15. Okay, that's very good to hear. Thanks, Georgina. Anybody else? Okay, well, I would encourage you. You have the link to the actual butterfly exercise. Feel free to try this on your own time and see if it makes a difference. Someone shared that they stayed at 22 but felt much more relaxed. That is very good to hear. Okay, I'm going to ask another question about the actual activity. You might have noticed the instruction to turn towards the sensation of holding or tension. Simply noting that it was there, that's how it is. Just want to remind you all that each time you move into mindfulness, you are stepping out of autopilot. And in mindfulness, we use soft, gentle awareness. We encourage that if you notice self-judgment, just take a breath and let it go. All right, so today what we will be doing is we'll be practicing mindful attention to your thoughts. We will observe your thoughts and let go over and over again, and we'll understand more about how the brain works under stress. We'll also learn the power of acceptance and gratitude to relieve stress. All right, so on that note, you probably could all agree that it is much better to underact than to overreact. We can all probably think of situations when we've done one or the other, and we can also think of what happened as a result, underreacting versus overreacting. The thing about mindfulness is it gives us the ability to observe our thoughts from an outside perspective. It helps in developing that detached observer. And what that is, it pretty much allows you to put some distance between you and the drama that might be swirling in your mind. This, in turn, helps us to underreact rather than overreact. I'll share a quote by Mark Twain. He once said, "I am an old man and have known a great many troubles, but most of them have never happened." Can anyone relate to that? I see someone is typing. Yep, some people say absolutely, yes. Okay, so now let's take a little look at brain science and see why this skill of detaching, kind of taking a step back, becoming a detached observer, why is it so important? Okay, so by the numbers, we have thousands of thoughts a day. People have suggested it's anywhere up to 80,000 thoughts a day. Most recent research actually shows it's a little less than that, between 4,000 to 6,000 a day, but either way, multiple thousands of thoughts a day. Of those thoughts that we have, about 90% of them are thoughts we've had before. And of those 90% of thoughts, about 80% of them are negative. So they're not necessarily true or helpful, they're just negative. That is a multitude of thoughts that are negative. And as Deepak Chopra says, we tend to get stuck to our beliefs, even in the face of contradictory information. So, what are your thoughts about that? What do you think about the fact that we have thousands and thousands of thoughts each day, most of which tend to be negative? Does that resonate, or does it sound like, not so much? What do you think? Someone shares that it hits home. I can be critical of myself. Thank you for sharing, and we will address that shortly. Just speaking about that inner critic that tends to be negative and repeating certain thoughts, ruminating over certain thoughts. Someone shares, that sounds right, but I think we can control it, and yes, mostly self-critical. Okay, thank you for sharing. Okay, so in light of this fact that we have these multiple thousands of thoughts each day, how do we respond to these thoughts? Do you find that you tend to control them? You enter into that fix-it mode, trying to control them? Sometimes you might be having achy feelings or body sensations. You're like, I must stop thinking this way. I must stop feeling this way. Or sometimes you try to manage them by getting upset or sad or mad. In some cases, some people choose the avoidance approach, trying to avoid them by getting busy or maybe even eating so you don't notice what's really going on and just keeping your brain going. Some individuals might blame themselves or others for thinking or feeling that way. So can you think about a time that you experienced stressful or unwanted thoughts, feelings, or body sensations, maybe within the last couple of days? I think a couple of the comments before already alluded to that. Yep, someone said just watching the news this morning. Absolutely, that can definitely put a lot of thoughts and negative feelings in our minds, no doubt about it. So since we are inundated with lots of things that can lead to this tidal wave of thoughts, what do you do to cope? How do you handle that? what do you tend to do to try and stop these thoughts from swirling in your mind? Okay, someone shared that they pray about them. Thank you for sharing. In a way, that seems almost like a form of releasing them. I see somebody else is typing. I'll wait for your response. Try to replace them with better thoughts. Okay, thank you. Thank you for sharing. I just want to say that many times when we try to control, manage, avoid, or blame, use blaming as our response to these thoughts, it can actually become a problem. And by that I mean, what we resist often persists. So there are many negative results from fighting with your mind or treating your thoughts as the enemy. And I think you remember last week when we had that finger trap. It's the same concept. The more we fight and yank against it and pull against it, the tighter it gets and the more caught up we are in it. So attempting to control thoughts and feelings may work temporarily, and it tends to actually increase anxiety and anger in the long run. It can affect our memory, and fighting with our own thoughts or feelings is just such hard work, and it gets emotionally exhausting doing that. Overall, it can even result in a poor quality of life. So I'd just like you to think about this. What you resist persists. To make this point, and I know a lot of you are probably thinking, I don't know. To make this point, let's try this activity where we try to suppress and control our thoughts. I'm going to ask you if you could please close your eyes. I know you've already seen the screen, but if you could please close your eyes and allow me to read this to you. Don't think about a pink elephant. Whenever you're ready, try really hard. Think about anything you wish for a minute, but whatever you do not think about a pink elephant. If you're like most people, you may find this difficult, maybe impossible to not think about a pink elephant. Feel free to open your eyes. What was that, John?
No.
Oh, I think that was not meant for me. Okay, so feel free to open your eyes. And as I asked you to not think about the pink elephant, was any of you able to not picture a pink elephant in your mind? I kept speaking about it. I kept calling it out. I kept bringing it up over and over again. How does your mind attempt to not think of this pink elephant? I see someone is entering something in the chat. I'm curious to know, how long did it work for you if you decided to replace it maybe with a different thought? Someone says, focus solution gets bigger. Oh, focus on the solution gets bigger. Okay. Thanks for sharing, Kate. Someone said they switched to a pink butterfly. I have never heard that before. That's really smart. Okay, thank you for sharing. My question for those who might have switched it to something different, did you find that me bringing back, don't think about a pink elephant, did the pink elephant come back somehow into the picture? In other words, did the pink butterfly morph back into an elephant? Someone said yes, absolutely. Yeah, so trying to suppress and control our thoughts doesn't work. It doesn't work. And we're going to address other ways to handle them. Don't worry, we're not going to leave you on this bleak note. Okay, someone shared that focusing on the problem and the problem gets bigger. Thank you so much for sharing. Okay, so we alluded to this a bit earlier about this inner critic, which pretty much allows the majority of our thoughts to be negative. Most of us have an inner critic full of harsh running commentary on our actions. how many of you find yourself in this type of constant negative inner dialogue? Things you probably would never say to a best friend or to a loved one, we say to ourselves. Our judgments and our beliefs about certain matters, our perceptions, can really lead us to behave in ways that sometimes aren't healthy. And it's really good to ask ourselves, what am I thinking about? Think about what you're thinking about. That might actually go a long way. And individuals who tend to journal can actually see it in paper. And that is very enlightening at times. And sometimes even speaking to someone, sharing those thoughts can be enlightening to self because you realize, wow, this is what I've really been thinking. And it's a bit jarring sometimes to hear it out. Okay, so we'll move on to the next slide. This will be my last slide before I hand over the mic to Georgina. I would like to invite you to answer these questions along with me. So I'm going to read each statement, and if you think the statement is true or false, feel free to enter T for true or F for false. So I'm going to start by reading the first one. Most of us have unrealistic beliefs about how we should be and how life should be. So we'll talk about some of those common beliefs. The first statement is, anxiety and depression are part of life's experience. Do you think that is true, T, or false, F? Feel free to use the chat. Okay, I see one true. I see we have 20 people in the chat room, so feel free to put just what you think, T or F. Okay, 3 truths so far. All right, it is true. Anxiety and depression are part of life's experience. Okay, the next statement, negative feelings are unavoidable in the face of life circumstances. Do you think that's a true or false statement? Okay, true, true, true. Okay, once again, majority true. You are correct. Negative feelings are unavoidable in the face of life circumstances. We cannot always control the thoughts and feelings that enter our mind. There are things we can do about them after the fact, but the fact that we get them is unavoidable at times. Okay, the third statement. It is impossible to maintain perfect control of one's emotions. Operative word being perfect. True or false? Okay, someone says false, someone says false. True. Okay, so here we have majority false. In reality, it is actually true. It is impossible to maintain perfect. And by perfect, I'm referring to 100% of the time, perfect control of our emotions. Research shows that it is actually impossible to maintain perfect control. And the final statement that I'll read, emotions are not a sign of weakness, but simply of being human. Do you think that is true or false? All right, I'm getting lots of truths. Yes, once again, it is true. So all the statements on this screen are actually true statements. All right, so at this point, I will hand the mic over to Georgina. Thank you for your participation. And Georgina, take it over.
Hi, thank you. I had to remember to unmute myself. So thank you, Kai, for that. Excuse me. So unpleasant thoughts and feelings are normal experiences in the flow of life. However, being more open to all of life's experiences can lead to greater happiness and enjoyment, improved mood and relationships, and also improved health. So mindfulness is about attitude and coming to a kinder, gentler relationship with our thoughts, feelings, and even those body sensations, those aches and pains that we have. So cognitive fusion, we're going to talk about this. This is when we mistake our thoughts for reality. The story is not reality. It is just our perception or just what we're telling ourselves at that time. Fusion means that we have become over-identified or we even get stuck with our thoughts. We tend to overthink, and then we also react to words about the event or thoughts as though it's happening. And this actually takes me back to that quote at the beginning that Kai shared with Mark, or that Mark Twain said, where, I think it's something like, I'm an old man and have many problems, but yet they never happened, or many of them never happened. And it all goes back to the things that we think about, right? So oftentimes we may be playing the worst case scenario. We're anticipating something's going to happen that's not good, and we get ourselves all worked up about it. And then guess what? It turns out to be better than we thought, or even great. And so oftentimes that's what happens, is we get stuck. We start to believe these negative thoughts, and then we just go down that path of that negativity. So let's look at what we can do, or try to do, with our thoughts. One thing is to remember that thoughts are merely sounds, words, or stories, that they may or may not be true, may or may not be important. They are definitely not orders. They're not things that we need to act upon. They may or may not be wise, and that they are never threats to us. So sometimes, too, what happens is the frame of mind, or the perception that we take on a situation, can really impact how that situation turns out to be for us. So I'm going to give you just a couple of examples here. Let's say that you are starting out new job, something that you haven't really done before. So it's a totally new experience for you. Maybe you even have a big learning curve. If you go into that job and your thoughts are, I'm not going to be able to learn this job, or I'm not going to do well, I just know I'm going to fail. How many of you, if you could type into the chat box, how many of you think that you actually will be able to do well in that job, that you'll learn it, and that it'll be a job that you're able to keep and be fulfilled for a long time? Do you think that your thoughts are going to make a difference in terms of how you actually do in this example that I've given you about the job? They for sure make a difference. Yeah. Someone said absolutely makes a difference. Yes, exactly. So Kai says, like a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? If my mind is already telling me I'm going to fail, I'm going to get fired, or just something horrible is going to happen, chances are something will. So just as we can have that in a negative manner, we can always use this self-fulfilling prophecy to work for us and have it be more of a positive situation. So if you go into it, and even if it is something that requires a lot of learning, if you're already in your mind frame, you're telling yourself, you know what, I'm going to be able to do this. It may be hard, but I'm going to get through it, and this is going to be a really good job or good opportunity for me. Just with that alone, you've increased the likelihood of you being actually successful in that particular situation. And there's lots of different scenarios that we can talk about. Another one might be, if let's say you're going into a new relationship, and you're kind of hesitant about it, and you're thinking, I don't know if I'm going to be happy with this person, or I don't know if we're going to be able to last a long time, or just along those negative thoughts. Again, same situation. The likelihood of that being a good, long-lasting, healthy relationship, it's going to decrease significantly because of those negative thoughts that you're having. And you may be the one who actually sabotages it, not intentionally, but because you're kind of half in it. If you're not expecting it to last or be good, you're probably not going to give it your all. So remember, we don't always need to, or we shouldn't always believe everything that we think. And remember that the mind is very powerful, and we can learn to use it in ways that will help us or benefit us, rather than listening and believing in all of that negativity that oftentimes tends to creep up. So don't believe everything you think. Getting too stuck to our thinking blocks out other options for solving problems, And it also, we end up creating barriers for ourselves, uh, um, or keeping ourselves from doing things that we're probably perfectly capable of doing because we start to listen and to believe those thoughts that are telling us that we can't. So this is another technique or thing that you can try to be able to diffuse our thoughts and simply just take a step back from them. And usually I will show people, I go onto this site. Kai, maybe if you can type it in for me, it's right there on the screen, that Pixel Thoughts. I highly suggest if you to try this at home. So with Pixel Thoughts, it's more of an interactive, but I'll kind of talk to you about what the whole concept is. So what you would do is just think, whatever it may be, something that's you've been worrying about, right? Something that's been bothering you. Take that thought and visualize it. Picture it as if it's on a TV screen or even on your phone. So let's say if your worry has something to do with finances, you might just kind of picture that finances right on that screen. And if you're thinking of using it like on your phone, so just like you have a picture, or if you have a map pulled up on your phone, you know how we can zoom in and out to make it as big or as small as we want or need it to be. So imagine that you're giving yourself the power to do the same thing with whatever that worrying thought is. And in this case, we'll just stick with the finances. So now you can zoom in and out and just give yourself the ability to kind of step back a little bit from that worrying thought. When you give some space from our thoughts, it helps us shift our perspective, which in turn can reduce those physical signs that we end up feeling of stress. This can help you become an impartial observer. Diffusing yourself from your thoughts helps you observe them as simply thoughts without mistaking them as if they were truth. This can help you see those thoughts that you have as the result of a noise-generating machine, which is our mind, because it's all in our mind, rather than a dire event or something that is threatening to us. So that's what we talk about in terms of trying to just diffusing our thoughts and being able to take a step away from them, and also giving you the ability to kind of take a little bit more control over these thoughts. So for example, sometimes when we are going through a really, really stressful situation, at that moment, it might feel like something just huge, right? It's just so big and overwhelming, and there's no way you're going to be able to get through it. When we're able to envision that getting as smaller or bigger, and that we have the ability to do that, that can help lessen the amount of stress that we might feel from that particular thought. So our mind is in constant motion, right? Seems like it's never sitting still. So this is some information that I'm going to share with you, and it is from Marilisa Fabriga, and she is the owner of Daring to Live Life Fully. Our minds are in constant motion. Think of it like monkeys that are just chattering away. Your mind is perhaps reading off a list of things that you have to do, right? The first thing you get up in the morning, you maybe already have that list. Like, oh my gosh, these are all the things I have to do for work. These are the things I have to do around the house, and it just gets bigger and bigger. So that might be something that you're thinking about throughout the day. Or it could be listing some fears, whether they're real or imaginary. Sometimes our minds could be recalling hurtful things that have happened in the past, or perhaps judging ourselves about the present moment, something that's happening currently. Or our mind could be creating a catastrophic what-if scenario of the future. So again, just kind of in your mind, you're thinking about the worst-case scenario. Because of this constant chatter, it is hard to slow down and really enjoy the present. All of that negativity affects our mood, making us unhappy, angry, restless, and even anxious. It interferes with our concentration, and it has a negative impact on our behavior, and it affects our ability to have positive interactions with others. All of this simply adds to our daily stress. The good news is that there are ways to get that monkey mind to calm down, to just simply stop all of that chatter, or at least slow it down significantly. Taming your monkey mind will help you think clear, focus on what is happening right now, and help you sleep better, calm you down, and you will be happier and healthier in the long run. So let's look at what are some things that we can do with this monkey mind, right? So that it just doesn't run wild and get the best of us. Here are some tips. And again, these are from Marilisa Fabriga. So the first one is to know that your monkey mind can be tamed, right? And truly believe it. So just tell yourself, okay, I'm going to find one of these tips or strategies, or maybe more than one, is going to be helpful for you. The first step in your quest to calm your monkey mind is to know that it is possible to do so. It's very likely that up until this point, you've allowed your monkey mind to simply run wild, but now you're going to put an end to that. After all, your thoughts don't rule you, you rule your thoughts. So again, taking that power back. Secondly is to talk to your monkey mind. It may sound weird, but it can be very helpful. When your monkey mind is in full swing, calm it down by having a conversation with it. Stop for a moment and listen to what your monkey mind is saying. Perhaps asking or trying to figure out, why is it so upset in the first place? Or what's all of this commotion or ruckus about? And then try doing the following. Is your monkey mind trying to remind you of something that needs to be done? So maybe is your monkey mind replaying for you this to-do list, something that you really have to do? If that's the case, maybe just writing it down, taking a note of it, or scheduling it on your to-do list, that might help calm that monkey mind so that you don't continue to think and worry about that. Or is your monkey mind anxious about something that may be happening in the future? If it is, reassure your monkey mind that everything is going to be fine. Conduct a worst ease scenario with your monkey mind and come up with a contingency plan. The other thing is, perhaps your monkey mind is voicing resentment over something that may have happened in the past. If this is the case, realize that you need to create an action plan for dealing with your past so that your monkey mind stops bringing it up. Sometimes your monkey mind just needs to be heard. Once it feels that it's been allowed to voice its grievances and concerns, it may settle down. Thirdly is to engage your mind. I'm sure that you've experienced those moments when your mind was like completely still. Perhaps it was because you're really involved in a good book or a movie or writing, doing some journaling. That's when your monkey mind goes silent. You just experienced what was going on without your mind chatter giving you that running commentary of events. This is because one way to silence your monkey mind is by engaging your mind fully. So the next time your monkey mind is driving you nuts, look for an activity that draws you in completely, that takes all of your attention. And all of this attention then can be placed on that particular activity rather than all of the things that your mind might be thinking about at that moment. Can you think of other times? What are some other things that you do where you really feel like, okay, I don't have this constant chatter going on in my mind? What are some other things? If you could type those into the chat box. those moments where you really feel like you're just at peace with yourself. Going for a run. Yeah, thank you. Exercise, whether it's running or going for a walk or at the gym, a good workout, that can be very calming and relaxing for people. Church, yep, going to church, prayer. How about, do any of you do any type of coloring or any creative type of work? That's something that since the last, and I'm losing track, I believe it's going on 7 or 8 months of everything that's been going on in the world. I've actually found that I enjoy the coloring. I do a lot of the adult coloring books, and I even have an app now that I go on, and it's just like my time. I just kind of don't think about anything else, just my coloring. So we all have to find a variety of things that can help us so that we don't have that constant chatter, whether it's reading, going for a run, church, praying, coloring, any of those things. Laughter, which is what we'll talk about next week, just finding something to get your mind off of that and enjoy a good laugh. So thank you for those responses. Now we're gonna have you try something. This is called a game of fives. The moment in which you hear the first monkey howling in your mind, you'll know that it's very likely that your mind has wandered off and that it's no longer in the present moment. You can get the tribe of monkeys in your mind to quiet down by bringing your mind back to the present. One way to bring your mind back to the present is by playing the game of fives. Pause your train of thought and notice 5 things in your environment. It can be 5 things that you either see, you're hearing, or you're smelling, and then fully experience that particular sight, sound, or smell. You can do this by pretending that it's the first time you've ever experienced that sight, sound, or smell, and adopting a sense of awe, like you're just, oh my gosh, you're so mesmerized by this thing that you're seeing or smelling. The moment in which you do this, all of your attention will be placed on the present moment, and your monkey mind will be silenced, or at least it won't be as loud, right? That intensity will diminish. And lastly, we have what's called pico-pico breathing. So pico-pico breathing is one of the basic practices of the ancient Hawaiian Huna philosophy. And pico means navel or center. So I'm going to ask if you could follow along with me. And I'd like for you to take a breathe in, just a nice deep breath in. And as you are inhaling, place your attention on the crown of your head. So again, just take a really deep breath in and focus your attention on the crown of your head. And when you exhale, center your attention on your navel. We're just going to do this a couple more times. So just keep breathing in, focusing your attention on your head. And as you breathe out, switching that attention to your navel. Do this a couple more times. Switching that attention from the crown of your head as you breathe in to your navel as you breathe out. All right, so I think that was a good amount of time. So the act of breathing deeply, centering your attention on one spot, and then automatically moving the attention to another spot will help you to calm your restless mind. So if you could, I'd like to just get some feedback on what did you think about this particular type of breathing, which is called that pico-pico breathing. Focusing your attention on one spot and then the other. And there are lots of different types of breathing techniques. So if this particular one was not one that you found, helpful or anything like that, don't worry. There's lots of other ones that you can practice. So, all right, so we've got from Lisa, I think this is a good way to focus your mind on something else. Yes, absolutely. It's relaxing and kind. Thank you. So yeah, so remember, it's about taking your mind and just focusing it on something else, like really diving into something else. That's what's going to help with you being able to calm, as we call this monkey mind, right? It's this constant chatter. So instead of struggling, right, with our thoughts, our feelings, and everything else that might be going on, imagine that your thoughts are on a Teflon pan, those non-sticks, the really good ones, where something really doesn't stick to it, and it's just a thought that you're having at that particular moment, but you're going to be able to let it slip right out. You're not going to hold on to that thought. You can let experiences, thoughts, and feelings come into your mind and slip right out, just as if you were using one of those non-stick pans. So we do have to notice, though, when we're having these thoughts. When negative emotions arise, try this exercise. Notice what your mind is saying or what your body is doing, and notice how your mind evaluates your body sensations. Notice, now name that emotion. So what is it that you're actually feeling? What's going on at that particular moment? Perhaps you could even say something to yourself like, hello, my name is, and whatever that might be. My name is anger, or my name is sadness, anxiety. Feel it in your body and envision yourself watching it simply pass away without engaging with it. Acknowledging our negative feelings often takes away their power to make us miserable. So again, we're trying to take back that control or that power from this particular feeling or emotion that you're having at that moment. So notice it and name it. What is happening? What's going on within you? The next thing would be to accept. And so when we accept our thoughts and feelings, you can picture them on a cloud and watch them coming and going. Imagine the shapes are changing and floating away, and just simply trying to let them be. So when we say accept, it doesn't mean that you just kind of give up and accept whatever the situation is that you're dealing with and that it's not going to get better. That's not what acceptance means, but you do have to simply accept that, you know what, oh gosh, yeah, this is what I'm facing right now, right? Or this is what's happened. I have to accept that it's happening. I can't just pretend that it's not there or, wish it to go away. I have to accept it, and then I have to find a way to be able to manage it and release it. Because we're not going to hold on to it and embrace it, right? It's not going to be a part of us. That's just something that's happening a moment in time. So when we release it, we practice that kindness and patience with ourselves and others, and we focus on what has gone well for us instead of putting the focus, or instead of shining the spotlight on all of the negative things that are happening. So try releasing your upsetting thoughts or feelings by practicing kindness and patience with yourself and others. Know that everyone has distressing thoughts and feelings, even you, and that all feelings are okay. Remember that you are human. Forgive yourself as you would a friend or a loved one. Embrace it and then release it. Let go of the things that hurt and embrace those things that help you. So it's another way of trying to switch from that negativity bias to trying to be more positive and optimistic. And it really is important to have that self-compassion. Remember to be kind to yourself, that we are humans, that we are going to make mistakes. Some are going to be big, some are going to be small. That's a part of life. It's not about perfection, but it's more about making progress. So the attitude of gratitude. Every night is something that's suggested to do. Before you go to sleep, write down 3 things that went well for you that day, or 3 things that you are thankful for. And when you do that over time, you'll be able to see and notice or put your attention more so on the good things that you have going for you versus those challenges and those struggles. And I really think that you'll appreciate more too of the good things that you have in life, because sometimes we just tend to take them for granted. So, and this is something that comes from a book called Buddha's Brain by Dr. Rick Hanson. He recommends turning positive thoughts into positive experiences. Notice the beautiful things that are happening around you. Savor the experience and make positive thoughts or moments last. Stay with them for 5, 10, perhaps 30 minutes. And lastly, imagine that the feeling or thought is entering deep into your mind. This simple activity has been shown to relieve depression, even in severely depressed individuals, after only 2 weeks of daily practice. And I really think that if this one here tends to be one of my favorites in terms of just being able to look at those things that you are thankful for, right? Counting your blessings. I usually tell people, if you were in a dark room and we have just a tiny little flashlight, wherever we aim that flashlight, that's the only area that we're going to be able to see. Everything else is going to be pretty dark. Sometimes that's what happens in life when we're just shining that flashlight on all of the struggles, the challenges, those negative thoughts that we have. It is easy then to overlook all of the good things that are happening, all of the bright spots in your life. So I really think that this particular exercise can be very helpful in switching those negative thoughts into positive and just having a greater appreciation for the things that you are thankful for. So our mindful perspective. Paying mindful attention to your thoughts to gain perspective. It is not whether the thought is true or not, but whether it is helpful to you. So asking yourself, if I pay attention to this thought, will it help me create the life that I want? Right? Is this thought going to help me go in the direction that I want? Am I going to be able to reach certain goals perhaps that I have? How is this thought going to affect me? Is it something that's good for me, or is it something that's not good for me? So fortunately, it is possible to choose to stop struggling and to think better or differently and start living better with whatever you might be thinking or feeling. So remember, instead of struggling and trying to control those thoughts, just let them be, accept them, and then finding ways to be able to release them so that you don't hold on to them. And this is another quote from Buddha's Brain. Only we humans worry about the future, regret the past, and blame ourselves for the present. We get frustrated when we can't have what we want and disappointed when what we like ends. We suffer that we suffer. We get upset about being in pain, angry about dying, sad about waking up, sad yet another day. This kind of suffering, which encompasses most of our unhappiness and dissatisfaction, is constructed by the brain. It is all made up. which is the most ironic, poignant, and supremely hopeful. For if the brain is the cause of the suffering, it can also be the cure. So that's another quote that I really like. So think about what might be your plan for the week. What are some of the things that you perhaps would like to try? Maybe one of them is keeping up that gratitude journal. So if you could, and we have a couple of minutes, so we're pretty much done. I'd just like to get some feedback from you in terms of any questions you might have or comments, or what is something that you might want to practice for this coming week. All right, looks like someone's typing in. I'll come back to that in just a minute. So 3 small steps. If you've attended our previous sessions, you've probably noticed that we always end with talking about 3 small steps. So using these 3 small steps this week to practice using mindfulness as a way to be kind to your mind. So you want to notice what happens when you get anxious, angry, or happy. Shift to gentle acceptance by developing your detached observer to put some distance between you and your thoughts, and simply getting out of that drama, right, in our minds. Think of all the drama that we conjure up. We can't shift if we don't notice, and we can't notice if we don't choose to notice. So it's all choice that we have to make. And then lastly, it's about practice. So practice tuning in daily to what you are doing and thinking. Practicing in small everyday ways helps you to form the foundation for a mindful and satisfied life. So I see a couple things here in the chat box. This was an awesome session. I love the attitude of gratitude. So simple yet powerful. I'm so glad to hear that. Thank you. Another one, walking with mindfulness. The colors are so beautiful, and that's been helpful whenever I've been stressed. Very good. Yes, and we talked about the last session was the mindful walking. And then the pausing and noticing how I'm feeling and why. Then choosing to direct my thoughts to the here and now and not being self-critical have really been helping me. It's even helped my wife as I told her about the concepts of mindfulness. Wonderful. I'm so glad to hear that you're sharing this information with your spouse. Thank you all for sharing with that. Yes, so Kai says, great to hear all of this. It is. That is very good for us to hear that. So I want to thank all of you for attending today and for engaging with us in the chat box and your responses.
And we have the links to all of these sessions. So if you do want to share them with a significant other or a family member that's struggling, feel free to share these links that Kate Lambert-Lee, our marketing manager, has been supplying for you guys. So if anyone needs them, please reach out and we can send them again to you. Want to make sure if you want to hear it again or see something that you definitely utilize those. So Kate just put up the contact information for that, the Facebook or our email address for MWR to get that. But thank you, Kai and Georgina. Again, this was just a really, really good session, and really good to hear stuff and know and have this knowledge. So thank you so much, and hope you guys have a great weekend, and hope everyone can join us next week for the Laughter is the Best Medicine. And that will be our last session.
Yes, you're welcome. And